All right, hello everyone and welcome. So sorry for some technical difficulties, but we are so excited to have you join us today for this year's State of the YAYA report. Over the next 25 minutes, we will take you through our research findings in regard to the complex and ever-evolving 18 to 24-year-old youth and young adult market. Afterward, we'll have time for Q&A so that you can ask us questions and get to know our experiences directly. If you are joining us in the room today, feel free to write down those questions that you have and save them for the question and answer segment. If you're joining us online, thank you for joining us. Feel free to tweet us those questions at MojoAd using our hashtag decoded or comment directly on our YouTube live link. My name is Megan Bartolak and I work as an account executive at MojoAd.
I'm Tiffany Wynn, one of MojoAd's media planners.
I'm Connor Hills. I work as a video producer.
And I'm Ben Kokite, a copywriter.
We are all part of the MojoAd team, a full-service, student-staffed agency specializing in all things young. Since its founding in 2005, MojoAd has worked with a variety of national clients, including Purina, Hallmark, Redbox, Dairy Queen, and our client this semester, Chevrolet. We also work on a variety of other clients, including research reports like this one, an internal recruitment campaign, and our Career Fest that we hosted 2 weeks ago. Each year, 33 new staff members bring in fresh perspective and new talent to keep up with an ever-evolving marketplace.
With introductions out of the way, let's begin. YAYA consumers are complex. They defy both tradition and expectation. They're grounded, but finding their way. They are undoubtedly hard to decipher. In fact, they're made up of a code that's entirely their own, the YAYA code. It's on their skin, in their DNA, and a part of everything that they touch. These individuals are different than you might expect. They'll challenge your perceptions and your preconceived notions like never before. Because of this, they need to be decoded. We can help with that.
There are many stereotypes you may have heard about this demographic, but if you assume them to be true, you'll miss out on the elements that make the YAYA consumer tick. We will challenge these glitchy ideas and debug any user perception error. We will translate information and insights about the market. We will update outdated ideas and beliefs. There is no system error. It is merely one of perception. Decoded.
We'd like to formally introduce you to the youth and young adult market, or for short, the YAYA market. With over 31 million people, they represent 10% of the US population and over $82 billion in buying power. Despite all this money, their financial future definitely still weighs heavily on them. 71% think that it's hard to get a job these days, and 3 out of 4 would rather be debt-free than rich. On top of money, the current class of YAYAs is the most ethnically diverse group of 18 to 24-year-olds in US history. As a result, they also value diversity of thought, with 95% agreeing that it's important to hear different ideas, even when they're not their own. To find ideas in the first place, they often turn to non-traditional media formats, with 94% of them using YouTube regularly. Clearly, this group is complex, and we understand if you might wonder how anyone could truly have expertise on this life stage. Lucky for you, we like to think that we know these 18 to 24-year-olds considerably well. We live with them, we work with them. In fact, we are them. And we like to think that this lends us a bit of perspective.
We are passionate about discovering truths about this life stage and understanding just who comprises it. We consider ourselves YAYA experts, and we are ready to help you decode these emerging professionals, passionate consumers, and this evolving market.
Besides being YAYAs ourselves, we've done our research. In August 2018, we conducted an online survey of over 700 YAYA consumers nationwide. The survey covered a range of topics, from their sense of safety, to their thoughts on healthy living, to the roles and demands of technology in their lives. From the results, plus secondary sources like Pew and Mintel, we were able to understand more about YAYA attitudes and behaviors. It allowed us to get to know them where they are and know them even better than we did before.
We want your perceptions of the YAYA consumer to be debugged and fully deciphered, so we've developed 6 key insights from our research. These insights will reset your perceptions of this age group. And after the presentation, you'll understand more about how they operate, what matters most to them, and who they are. First, let's take a look at the way technology is a part of the YAYA code. Is it too deeply embedded or an essential part of their operating systems? We've got the answer.
YAYA consumers are sending out a screen time SOS. This demographic is intrinsically linked to its technology, and sometimes this link can feel like too much. Friends, family, school, and work all demand that YAYA individuals remain connected and accessible through their technology at all times. If mom calls, she expects a quick response. Homework is submitted online, textbooks often come in digital format, and work emails pop up after hours requiring immediate replies. 31% of our survey respondents said that they believe friends and family would worry if they took a break from their phones. Simply put, YAYAs feel like their screens are running their lives.
However, it's not a cut and dry relationship. Even though YAYA consumers feel linked to their devices, they also turn to them for a break from reality and for entertainment by using popular platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook to unwind and enjoy. In fact, 32% of our survey respondents said that they would prefer to spend their free time on social media rather than reading, listening to music, eating out with friends, and watching video. But 39% say that keeping up with social media feels like a job. This renders a complicated relationship. Let's decode. They're increasingly aware of the consequences of this digital dependency and are worried that they won't be able to find a way to break free. Over half of our respondents admitted to being addicted to their devices. Because of this, they're trying to find balance in any way that they can. For example, 40% of our survey respondents said that they would prefer to read a printed book than an ebook. So they're trying to unplug, even when they could use a device.
So what's the solution to this desire to disconnect? First of all, understanding. If society can harness this insight and parents, teachers, workplaces, and friends can operate within this knowledge, broader and better changes are possible. In fact, balance is possible. 36% of YAYAs tell us that they find the idea of a digital detox appealing, and 41% of them are interested in techniques and suggestions to help them reduce their screen time.
That said, if employers can cultivate a culture of unplugging or set up boundaries for a refresh, YAYA consumers will feel more compelled to take some time away from devices. For example, Google, Apple, and Goldman Sachs make mindfulness meditation staples for their workers. But brands can promote unplugging too, like AT&T did with its holiday campaign called Present of Being Present, which encouraged their consumers to have real experiences with their loved ones rather than spending the season only on their screens. The YAYA code has digital devices in its makeup, but we all have the power to address the demands and ease the anxieties of the resulting technology addiction.
YAYA consumers facing the pressure of finding balance with technology are also facing the pressure of living up to the edited perfection that they see on their social channels. 73% of our survey respondents agree that mental and emotional health are just as important as physical. They want to care for themselves like they see friends, celebrities, and influencers doing on social media, but they need a little bit of help. 42% of our survey respondents said that they feel pressure to be healthy, but 59% don't always keep up with staying active because it's hard to stay motivated. Let's decode.
Deeply embedded in the YAYA code is a craving for community and a desire to belong. Their collective intelligence supports them in this pursuit of wellness. They want to sync up with friends before heading to the gym. According to our survey, 44% like to combine being active with being social. So sweating through SoulCycle with peers gives them more motivation, it keeps them accountable, and it can take away that intimidation of navigating a gym. One thing facilitating this desire is group fitness. YAYA consumers make up 66% of participants in boutique fitness classes, according to a Piper Jaffray consumer survey. Programs like SoulCycle and Pure Barre and on-demand fitness services are creating communities that 18 to 24-year-olds want to be a part of.
Brands have the opportunity to install this sense of connectedness with their products and services. Tone It Up is a great example. It's an online fitness community that hosts daily classes and challenges on its app. They also offer branded gear, like water bottles, fitness equipment, and nutrition products. 18% of Yayas say that they use a fitness training app in pursuit of their health and wellness goals. This is a brand that's programmed for community. They offer their members the chance to belong to part of a group, especially through social media, which connects members across the globe.
The YAYA health and wellness journey isn't just about fitness, though. It translates to the kitchen, too. 57% of our survey respondents said that they want to prepare more healthy meals, but they need help learning how to do it. For marketers, this means a big opportunity to create simple, bite-sized content on how to cook healthy on a budget. Overall, YAYA consumers are on a wellness journey together. Community drives their desire to push themselves and be a part of a larger movement toward bettering their mental, physical, and emotional health. So what can companies do? Build that community and encourage well-being.
Yayas are operating through community in more than just their wellness journeys, though. They're taking collective action to make the world a better place. You see, fear, lack of trust, and calls for change are all embedded within the YAYA code. But this doesn't make them timid. It empowers them. Let's decode. Yayas are increasingly concerned with the direction that the world is headed in. In fact, our survey revealed that 51% believe the world is becoming less safe.
They're also questioning our bedrock institutions more than ever before. Wall Street, Congress, the federal government, and the media are all under scrutiny from this watchful demographic. 18 to 24-year-olds are taking a reasonable, mature approach to making the world safer and better, and they're not waiting on institutions to create that change for them. Rather, they're rising above partisan tensions and working to make things better outside of party lines. For that reason, we like to call them pragmactivists.
This demographic does see the value in these institutions. They don't want to see them removed, they just want to see them reformed. To make this happen, they're uniting into groups and making their voices heard to promote open-mindedness and objective ways of making the world feel like a safer place. This isn't always an easy task, though, as they're ever connected and constantly bombarded with news about a worsening world. In fact, 55% of Yayas tell us that they worry about their safety in public spaces. Because of this, they're taking protective measures, like using smartphone apps such as SafeTrack. This is because 58% of them say their smartphone gives them peace of mind when they're alone. They're not just using technology for their protection either. They're also taking more physical measures. Interestingly enough, just as many Yayas own guns as older demographics. However, they are more in favor of gun control regulations like mandatory background checks. This is because 44% of them are concerned about a campus or workplace shooting.
So how do companies and brands operate within this truth? 45% of YAYA consumers believe it's important for brands to take a stand on social issues, as Levi Strauss has done with gun control. The CEO recently reacted to gun violence in the United States by announcing a new series of initiatives to help groups working to combat gun violence, promising to donate $1 million in the next 4 years to groups fighting for this cause. Brands and companies also have the opportunity to tune in and help YAYA individuals mobilize around an issue that aligns with company values. This can be done by creating cause communities, which host online content like short videos and graphics to help this demographic mobilize and allow users to come together and organize in a grassroots way. These measures help brands seem less faceless, which ultimately leads to greater trust. 44% of our survey respondents said that they believe their generation will make the world a better place. So don't miss out on the opportunity to be by their side when they do.
Just like in the examples we just mentioned, Yayas expect brands to take up causes just like they do. This demographic has embedded within them a keen ability to see authenticity in brands, as well as a need to see proof of a brand's desire to help. If a brand behaved in a way that didn't align with the Yaya's values, 45% of our survey respondents said they would stop buying from them. For Yayas, seeing that changes are being made matters, and no longer is it enough to simply say that you stand by something. You also have to show it. Let's decode. 54% of our survey respondents said that they believe brands pretend to do good just to drive purchases. To ensure successful computation with YAYA consumers, brands need to make sure that they aren't just taking up a cause for the sake of taking up a cause, but are instead standing by things that align with their core values, missions, and messages.
And like we said, YAYA consumers expect to see proof of how this good happens. Graph, videos, and evidence of charity funding on social channels and on company websites provide brands an opportunity to promote their efforts to make a difference. For example, 10 Tree, an apparel brand that plants 10 trees for every item sold, frequently shares about their planting efforts through blog posts, thus highlighting the positive impact they have on the communities that they engage with. According to our survey, 41% of YAYA consumers are skeptical of brands that claim to support a cause, so it's imperative that there's evidence of how this happens. Another great example of cause marketing done well is Spotify's initiative to celebrate Black history year-round with its campaign, Black History is Happening Now. The brand also activates around Pride, which is a movement that supports the LGBTQ+ community and fights discrimination. Lastly, Spotify actively promotes partnerships that empower women in leadership.
These initiatives align with Spotify's core mission to promote diverse music to diverse audiences. This authenticity translates well with the YAYA demographic, and it's significant as well. 43% of YAYA consumers say that they would purchase a product just to show support for issues that a brand supported. This is a demographic that's not afraid to stand up and make their voices heard, all while holding brands accountable for doing the same. To get it right, make sure that you're genuine and that you select your causes carefully.
Our next insight brings us to the complicated relationship between the YAYA consumer and money. They're coded for life on a financial tightrope. But what does this mean? Let's decode. Managing money in this life stage is a balancing act, with tight budgets and little extra spending money at either end of the rope. Even more, there's a presence of possible debt lurking below them at all times. 55% of our survey respondents said that finances are a great source of stress for them. They're nervous about their present financial state, but that doesn't mean they can't be optimistic about their financial future.
As a result of this, they're finding creative ways to spend as much disposable income as possible without falling into the financial abyss. To start, they keep thrift top of mind. 41% of our survey respondents think that clothing rental and trade services, like buying and selling apps, are a good way to save money, and 55% like the local aspects of those. However, YAYA shoppers definitely do still fall prey to bad habits as they navigate their high wire. And while they say that 49% of their purchases are made on impulse, their thrifty shortcuts bring them quick fulfillment and little financial pain. YAYAs are questioning the necessity of goods and are reevaluating the traditional purchasing process. Out of this debate arises a "do I really need this" ethos, and ultimately has led YAYAs to rank access over acquisition.
18 to 24-year-olds are almost twice as likely than older generations to say that access is the new ownership, according to a consumer report from accounting and research agency PwC. Apparel brands and marketers should consider offering rent or rent-to-own options as a budget-friendly service for their customers. For example, ThredUp, an online consignment service, buys and sells used clothing. According to our survey, 27% would consider subscribing to an online rental service for clothing and accessories, while 42% say that clothing rental and trade is a budget-friendly way to build a wardrobe.
Marketers can leverage YAYA consumers' impulsive behavior by adding buy or checkout buttons on social media, a feature that's already available on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. As you can see, understanding that the YAYA demographic is operating on a budget and searching for thrifty ways to get what they want is critical. Access is replacing ownership for this demographic. They're redefining buying and rethinking the ways that they shop.
Our last insight for today touches on the part of the YAYA code that involves where they make their money, not just how they spend it. YAYA employees are looking for a system update in the workplace, from one of management to mentorship. Let's decode. At the core of this is their desire for mutual respect and their drive to improve and optimize their work before they make mistakes. 45% of our survey respondents cited a lack of consistent feedback as one of their biggest workplace frustrations. Mentors can help them identify areas for improvement and current strengths in a way that is non-threatening and fosters dialogue. They crave accountability from their mentors and the assurance they're on the right path to becoming better professionals. It gives them someone who's on their side and advocating for their success.
YAYA workers are concerned about more than just having mentors in the workplace, though. The increasing national conversations revolving around unfair and unequal treatment in the workplace, specifically those focusing on sexual harassment and racial discrimination, as well as the national campaigns that seek to address them, are raising concerns for YAYA employees. 57% of our survey respondents said that they worry about finding a workplace that treats them equally and well. Fortunately, brands have the ability to help solve these problems, and cultivating a culture of respect and openness is a great place to start. Also, mentors can help in this process as well by becoming safeguards to young employees experiencing these fears.
On top of this, the YAYA market is coded to believe that growth in companies and in careers is a two-way street. Mentorship culture leads to retention, which benefits not just YAYA employees, but companies too. 73% of millennials who plan to stay with employers after 5 years say it's because these employers are strong educators and trainers. Reboot workplace culture and allow the philosophy of mentor, retain, repeat drive your operations. Understanding this benefits both you and your YAYA employees and can help them as they navigate the first that they're experiencing in the workplace. But they also crave mentors in life. Remember that these YAYAs are going through a time of change. So whether that means they're moving to a new city and starting their first salaried position, or moving into their first apartment and trying to figure out the whole taxes thing. Regardless, mentors can help YAYAs grow both personally and professionally, and they'll attribute that growth to your support.
As you can see, the code behind YAYA consumers is layered and complex, but there are powerful benefits awaiting those who can crack it. We hope that our research has opened the door and shown you some of the opportunities available to you as you move forward.
By taking the time to be with us today and to learn about the YAYA market, you yourselves have become code breakers, uncovering truths that are different than your initial assumptions. You've learned information that can forever change the way you work with and learn from YAYA individuals in the future. You've taken a crucial step toward understanding the best ways to build relationships with this group.
The insights you've learned today have massive potential to make an impact, but they are by no means the end of the code. There will always be new information to translate and uncover. If you're interested in learning more, visit mojoad.com/State of the YAYA report, where you can view and share this year's report, as well as gain access to previous year's reports. That way, you can begin to gather even more information on a life stage that is now, more than ever, decoded.
We appreciate you spending time today getting to know the YAYA market. On behalf of everybody at MojoAd, thank you so much for joining us. We will now open the floor for questions, but first we would like to invite up our researcher, Elizabeth Ryer, and our art director, Zach Susie. We've got a question in the front.
So clearly social media plays a big role in these people's lives. So what about influencers on social media? Like, do they find that to be authentic, or people that they listen to?
Yeah, I think I can take this one. It's very successful, actually. Leveraging influencers can be a huge plus for brands. They're more receptive to them than they are to celebrities, because the topics that they can deal with are so niche. They look like an expert, they look like they're authentic, and YAYAs really respond to them.
Yeah, on top of that, we actually have some research about YAYA women specifically. We found that 89% of them say that influencers would positively impact a purchase decision that they can make.
So yeah, that'd be like a good way to use the buy buttons on Instagram and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. We're really seeing that this age group wants to interact with brands in an authentic way. And so by seeing someone like an influencer on YouTube or Instagram, it's a really good way for them to build a connection and see how that product could be used in real life.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? All right, we're going to take some questions from YouTube. So someone said, I'm interested in a reaction from some of you or really anyone in the audience. How do you feel about investing with a financial advisor? Do you think you'll ultimately do it yourself? Do you know enough to decide? And a little background, this person is asking this question because tech is allegedly threatening the role of an advisor in a young person's life.
Yeah, so we're really seeing that this age group is walking their quote-unquote financial tightrope. So they're looking to make decisions in their lives that will help out their future finances, but they're still a little bit confused on what exactly those decisions would be. They're still going to their parents for information, and they're concerned about the taking on, debt and things like that for their education and the implications that will have on them later in life. And so I think they would definitely be interested in talking to a financial advisor. We're seeing that they do need financial advice, but it's going to be interesting how they go and get that information with the new digital space.
Speaking directly from personal experience, I actually do have a financial advisor, and it really helps me to have someone I can go to in person and ask questions to and see them face to face and have them suggest things to me, and we can hash that out on a one-on-one level versus using technology or some service online.
Speaking also from personal experience, I do not have a financial advisor, and I have not invested my own money. If I was going to do so, I would definitely seek help before doing it. I don't think I would be confident enough in my own knowledge of that sphere to do it by myself.
I would add to that as well, with including tech in the mix. Excuse me. When I first began investing, I would use an advisor to kind of answer all the bigger questions that I had, but it was a lot of me putting trust into them to properly use my money. But I appreciate having an app that I can check and that will continuously update me on how this investment is doing, and allows me to still feel like I kind of have a hand in the process without having to directly deal with all the complexities of it myself.
Awesome, thank you. So another question from someone watching on YouTube. They said, are you able to share more information on your sample? So I'm talking about, were there 700 young adults sampled across the country, or is this only comprised of Mizzou students? Just give us a little more about your survey.
Yeah, so our survey is released through Qualtrics, which allows us to mirror the respondents to U.S. Census data. So you'll see that our respondents aren't just from Mizzou, they're actually from all across the country, and they're fairly evenly spread out across our 18 to 24-year-old age group.
Perfect, thank you. Another question from YouTube. Someone said, social media is so cluttered nowadays, but it seems to be the only place to authentically reach young people. What is the best way to optimize our chances of being seen and heard in this space?
I can take that one for sure. Using an example that I've seen in the past that I feel has worked really well. An example that I really personally connect with is the Portillo's campaign, Get Obsessed. Rather than taking things that they saw on social media and trying to sell them to us, they're taking exact screenshots of what people have said about their products. For example, I've got a Portillo's hot dog in my purse right now. Can't wait to eat it later. Some really funny comments, and taking those exact screenshots and sharing them rather than trying to replicate it by maybe having people in an interview try to recreate that vibe. So they're taking the exact experience and reposting it rather than trying to recreate it. And I think that's what feels authentic to me, is because it's coming straight from the consumer.
Yeah, on top of that, we know we already mentioned a little bit about influencers. That's a great way to leverage social media because of the authenticity that comes from that, along with leveraging friends and making campaigns that can involve someone's entire friend group. If you can find a way to interact with everyone in that person's group, it makes people more willing to jump in if they have friends that are doing it first. And then the last little point on that I'd like to make is, we expect as Yayas, our phones are kind of listening to us now, and we expect to get those kind of creepy ads that are like, oh, you talked about lawnmowers, you're getting an ad for lawnmowers now. But you can use that in a way that's less creepy. If you're acknowledging the fact that you're listening to them and you go, hey, let's start a conversation. Are you interested in talking about this? Instead of just saying, buy a lawnmower. Go, we heard that you're interested in this. Let's start a one-to-one individual relationship. Because that's the beauty of social media, is the way it lets you personally tailor your marketing to one person.
Yeah, that was a really good point, Connor, because we're seeing that this age group really likes to use research to influence their buying decisions. So whether it's looking at consumer reviews or looking at just influencers on social media, they really turn to it to start their buying process. And so it's important that brands have a strong voice on there so they can build a connection.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Another question we had was, as students in the YAYA demographic, what was the most surprising finding from your research?
Definitely, I can start us off there. I think the most surprising thing for me was understanding that everybody else is in that same spot. I felt very secluded in a lot of the ways that I felt, particularly about money, and the fact that I'm really optimistic about the future and kind of at this moment pretending like I know what I'm doing when I really don't. And I kind of looked around and thought that everybody else had it all together and did know what they were doing. So it was really surprising for me to understand that a lot of other people are in that same place as me, and I think that that's a really great opportunity that brands can take advantage of.
I was going to say that I found the information about gun control laws really interesting, because although they own the same amount of guns as older demographics, they are more aware of like the implications of them and are wanting more regulations on them. So that's what I found really interesting.
Yeah, something I found interesting in the political side of things was in closed conversations, you hear a lot of people with ire and kind of bitterness towards the government and the current political system. But our research showed that they are willing to participate inside the current structures and inside the current institutions of government. And so that was actually a very surprising finding to me, and also figuring out that they prefer to spend their time politically engaged in boots on the ground activism versus donating their money like older demographics do.
I would add in some about Megan's comment with finances too, and the financial sacrifices that our generation is willing to take. So things like living at home for a few extra years, mainly using rental services versus owning services, then frees up some of those funds to do things like go to concerts and have these experiences. That one of the things our research found was that the social interaction and experiences that our generation has, or our life stage has, are so much bigger than the material things that we own. And I think that was just a bit of a change from things in the past.
And then the thing that I found most interesting kind of piggybacks a little bit off of what Ben was saying with the trust of brands, but specifically tying more into cause marketing. A question we've gotten a lot with this presentation, this report, is revolving around if cause marketing has kind of reached its zenith, where people are just so expectant of seeing cause marketing that they'll really attach themselves to it. And that's fed into the YAYAs being, you know, a little more lukewarm to just seeing a number figure, but instead seeing something that's more tailored specifically to a brand, like Tentree. Their clothing apparels are sustainably sourced. They literally go out and plant those trees, and just seeing that we're getting to a point where people can disseminate the causes, and that having an authentic cause is the most important thing.
Thank you. Another question is, are there specific things that you found are most effective in terms of being a supportive mentor?
I can definitely start us off there. I think one of the first things that we noticed here is that they're not just looking for mentorship in the workplace. And I know I went into detail on that a little bit during the presentation, but there's something so special about having somebody care about who you are as an individual and helping you grow through this life stage that we're all trying to figure out, starting our very first job and trying to organize ourselves in the office space, but also outside. I think that that's something super important, especially when you're moving to a new city. Having a mentor that's willing to chat with you about different ways you can save money in the city, or great places to go to eat, or maybe even take you there to those places. Well, somebody that's willing to spend time with you and really mentor you as an individual, rather than just helping you adjust to your new work environment. I think that's something that really sticks out to me personally, but I think we found that about the rest of YAYA individuals as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing this age demographic. They want to build a connection within the workplace. So, and I'm sure we've all seen this kind of as we're applying for internships and jobs that a lot of places are starting to promote. When you get onboarded, you also have a boss, but you also have a mentor. So you have somebody that you can go to for your work problems, but you also have kind of somebody that can coach you and teach you how to jump through the hoops in life and kind of help you build your own career path, which I think is really helpful for this age group since we are still trying to figure out what we want to do and where we want to go and where that will take us.
Speaking from personal experience, at my internship last summer, I had a manager and a mentor, so kind of what Liz was saying. So I went to my manager with things like how do I do this and give me an assignment for this, but I would go to my mentor for a coffee break or just venting about my internship, if I'm being honest. So it's more of relational than like managerial.
I think another smart thing you can do is, in terms of having a mentor versus like a supervisor like these two were just talking about, it helps to have someone a little closer to your position versus somebody very high up in the company. Like if you're an intern working with a junior, or a junior working with a senior, something kind of close, so that way you relate a little bit more and it's not as intimidating to not know what you're talking about or to ask those questions that you may have.
I'll wrap us up real quick on that one. Another thing that I've experienced in the past is making goal-oriented plans with your mentor. Having somebody who, like Ben just mentioned, is close in your position and can help you kind of weekly reevaluate where you're at and where you're trying to get, and really figuring out the places that you can try to improve and grow, and think different projects you can hop in on through the week to achieve those goals is definitely something that I value as well.
Thank you. So another question is, what did your research tell you about the risk of a brand taking a stand? So for example, Nike, their campaign last year, it was risky, but it paid off. And it sounds like your research showed that Yayas would walk away if they disagreed.
So I wouldn't say that's exactly what our research found. I would say it's more of Yayas are going to be more receptive of a brand that actually does take a stand on something, rather than remaining neutral or kind of not going either way. That to pick a decisive directive and go with that and continuously support that is so much bigger than just kind of staying out of an issue. And I think that, we saw that with Nike. We've talked about that some as we've done this presentation previously with Gillette as well, and their recent ad kind of addressing men. And I think it's bigger for a brand to really state something and then support it and have it also align with the brand values, as we had talked about, than it is for them to really avoid an issue or to just back out, because then you're just going to get washed away amongst all the other brands who are also avoiding the issue.
Yeah, Zach is totally right with that. We really want brands to be authentic because this age group really looks into things. They don't see just a number when you support a cause. They really want it to be an authentic extension of the brand. And so when a brand does take a big stance against something, like one of the examples we had in our presentation was like with Dick's and they decided to stop selling guns. That's something that really resonates with this age group, and when a brand takes a stand like that, it really shows that that brand cares about that issue to take a action rather than just post something on social media.
As a quick follow-up there too, Mintel also just recently released their 2018 Consumer Report survey, and it also mirrored the findings that we found, that you have a better chance of connecting with YAYA consumers by taking a stand, and that's something that we really value in general. So
I think it's really making sure that you have a foot in the fight as well for the thing that you're standing for. There was a lot of turmoil around that Pepsi ad a couple years ago because it didn't really make sense with Pepsi and what they were doing, and that didn't feel representative of who they were, so they couldn't tell it in an authentic way. But if a cause or taking a stand on something, it ties in with something that a brand does, like we have a campaign that we've been looking at a lot with Chevrolet, where they encourage women in STEM fields. That's something that they are taking a stand on that people can relate with because it's encouraging the technology aspect of their brand, and they have a foot in that fight.
Perfect, thank you. Another question is, how can brands best demonstrate support for YAYA needs like self-care, health, wellness, and other values?
Yeah, so I can start us off with this one. We're really seeing that this age group cares about self-care and taking time to, do things within their day that are really for themselves, whether this is just taking a little break from their phone or meal prepping for the week. They really want to ensure that they're finding balance in their lives, which was kind of one of the themes that we saw throughout all of our research. They want balance within the workplace. They want balance within their social lives, and that's something that they're really starting to be mindful of and take action with.
I agree, and I think one of the number one things that we are starting to look at is taking a break from our screens. So there could be interesting implications moving forward with advertising there, because so much advertising right now is tech-oriented, as we've been talking through this whole presentation. So I think that that's definitely going to be an interesting contrast to see how that goes, and that's going to be one of the steps that we are really paying attention to.
Thank you. Okay, last question, and then we're gonna stop with the Q&A. Are YAYA consumers thinking about making large purchases like cars, household appliances at this point in their lives? And if so, how do they approach that buying process?
Yeah, so I can start us off again. So we're really looking at the kind of decisions that they're starting to make, because those are purchases that obviously are really big financial purchases. So the amount of research that goes into those is huge. We actually started looking into this a little bit with Chevrolet, and we saw that these consumers start researching these big purchases like almost 6 months out, just so they can grasp a better understanding of the brand and what their needs are from that purchase. And they're really looking to people to help them make those decisions. So for like with a car, for example, they're going to be looking towards their friends and family to help influence that decision, so they're not just making such a big decision on their own.
Yeah, so Liz is 100% right there with research being such a big part of it. I also think that keeping that top of mind awareness is a huge it's just huge for this demographic at this time, because while we might not be making a purchase within the next year or two even, but 3 or 4 years down the road, if we're seeing a brand that's consistently supporting things that we enjoy, consistently having a solid message, it's going to really resonate with us. And while we might not even know that it's happening, it will continue on. And then as we go to make that big purchase like a vehicle, you'll think, okay, what brands am I going to look at first? And the three, your top 3 should be 3 that you've been sticking with and following along with their company values and whatnot for the last few years. And that really ties into cause marketing as well, and keeping up with a consistent cause and just making sure that that's known to the audience.
I'll wrap us up on a personal note. Long term, I would say I definitely keep in mind, okay, I'm going to have to start paying rent for my own apartment soon, and I'm going to have to start paying car insurance and things like that. Short term, however, that didn't stop me from spending $10 at Starbucks this morning. So keeping small, steady reminders of these financial things that are coming up in my life is definitely going to be what's reminding me to prepare for it. However, short term, I am somewhat of an impulsive buyer. So there is definitely a contrast between what we're thinking and what we're actually doing. So keeping that in mind is definitely important as well. But I do think that brands have an opportunity to consistently and slowly and subtly and nicely remind me of the financials that are coming at me in the future. And I know that that was our last question of the day. Once again, we want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We will have our full report up on our page, mojoad.com/State of the YAYA report, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Stay in tune with our social channels, because we'll be posting about that. And thank you so much.